Welcome to this special edition of The Big Picture. My guest on this Big Picture is the Bishop of the Diocese of Buffalo, Bishop Michael Fisher. We're going to jump into the hard question. You're a Baltimore guy. How long has it taken you, and how is the transition to being a Buffalo guy, a Buffalo Bills fan at that? How's that going?
I came from Washington, D.C. I grew up in Baltimore, but I kind of see both cities as my hometown. My mother was from Washington, D.C., and my father was a Baltimorean. So to the time I was 18, I lived in Baltimore, so my young age in education, a lot of my education growing up was from there. Baltimore was very much a town similar, I think, to Buffalo. You know, it had parish communities, neighborhoods, close-knit neighborhoods. Everybody sort of knew each other's business. I grew up in a row home, a typical kind of Baltimore row home, and then we moved to the other side of town when I was around 16. But when I went away to college, I moved into the Washington area with my grandmother and was very much familiar with the Washington area because of growing up. I would go over there in the summers to spend with my grandmother, and so I moved in with her to go to college there. Washington is much different than Buffalo, as probably most people are aware. Very inside the Beltway kind of town, very focused, I think, on the government, which both my parents were government workers. But coming to Buffalo, I really felt at home here. I haven't felt lonely at all. Even though I have no connections, I have no relatives or family, even priests. Most of the priests that I was formed with or had associated with in my ministry were not from here. There's a few connections, but not a lot. So actually, I've found it exciting to get to know my new home, and I really feel in many ways the Lord brought me here because I feel like I'm meant to be here. Yeah.
Real sense of community here. It's very down to earth.
Very much so, and I love the outgoing aspect of the people here, and they tell you what's on their mind. I like that, and I like the weather, believe it or not. So it's a great. Buffalo's a great town.
Well, now you have, I think this is an obvious question, you have, as bishop, to wear several hats. You're obviously the religious leader of the vast majority of Buffalonians, the Irish, the Italian, the Polish communities, a huge Catholic community here. But you're also tasked with running what amounts to a large business. There's properties, there's people to be taken care of, there's an education system that has to be organized. There's a lot of different responsibilities, and then on top of everything else, there's a social aspect. And in today's world, there's division and attacks that seem to come out of every direction every day. And how do you sleep at night?
Well, John the 23rd had a wonderful saying. He would get when he was getting ready to go to bed at night, he would say, "Lord, it's your church. I'm going to bed." and I think for our own mental and spiritual and physical well-being, we do have to do that sometimes. To say, "I've done all that I can this day, and I need my rest, and I need to be refreshed in the morning." But sometimes it can be daunting. There are three really qualities that a bishop has. That's that he's to be a teacher, preacher. He's to sanctify, which means you guide people to Christ and to holiness. You help them in their relationship with God. We do that through our sacraments of the church, the Holy Eucharist, the Mass, confession, the sacraments of confirmation and baptism. So that's the sanctification part. And then there's the governing part, in that we're responsible as shepherds, so that's why we carry the crozier or the staff. That represents taking care of the needs and the resources of our people, and making sure that they're safe, and that they're being guided in their faith and their education. So those three are the three things that we focus on, and sometimes we spend more time than others balancing the three, but the most important thing we do is to celebrate Mass every day and hopefully guide people to the Lord. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's not a 9-to-5 job.
There are a lot of challenges, and if I know anything about you, I know that you are a student of history. And over the last 50 or 60 years, there's been a change, an evolution, if you will, where society in general has been lured away from faith and from organized religion, certainly. I talk to people all the time, and I talked to someone just about 2 days ago, and I hear a very similar phrase. You know, I was raised a Catholic, but I don't practice anymore, or I don't go with organized religion anymore. And I don't know what to say to those people, because, you know, if you're a Catholic, you're a Catholic, but if you're not practicing, what's left? Where do you go from there? And I'm not quite sure, I don't know whether you hear that in your travels, but I know that's something that I find very common.
No, I think as we look at the statistics, we look at from that aspect of it, you know, since the 2000, we've seen such a dramatic change in the practice of religion. One of the common things that we hear in society is that, well, and among our young people today, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. In other words, somehow I have this religious need within me, but I don't want to attach myself to a particular institution or religious tradition. And but I think we see that across the board. You know, I was thinking about my own life, and you know, I was an accountant before I went into the priesthood. Also before that, I was very much involved in scouting. You know, growing up, I say that I wouldn't be a priest today if it wasn't for scouting. And we've seen how all these institutions, in a way, have had their scandals. And yet they've also been there's this sort of desire to tear everything down, and all the foundations that have made, I think, our country great, our church vibrant, and now we have certainly the attacks here. I just think in general in society on authority. Not that we haven't brought those on ourselves in many ways. You know, we have a lot to account for in terms of the abuse scandals, you know, with the that have occurred in the church, some of the decisions that have been made in those regards. When I think of that idea about I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, that's only half the coin. You know, we do as human beings have a deep need for God, and we know that in our hearts. We need to go into our souls and our conscience where we hear the voice of God. That is the spiritual nature of who we are. We're not just physical. There is a spiritual aspect to all of us. Some of the statistics that play out is that, you know, I think as of 20 years ago, you had 90% of the people believed in God, and I think that's down to like 63% now. So we're seeing this trend. We also see it in people coming to church. You know, the pews are empty, and that's difficult to look at and to address. But the other part of that, though, is we need religion. You know, religion is that part of us that takes us out of ourselves, takes that spiritual side of us, so that we're not selfish and self-absorbed, and that we reach out of ourselves to help others. I think we've also seen some statistics that show those who are active in their faith, who do practice their faith, who go to church, are much healthier in their life.
Happier too.
Yeah, they're happier. They have a sense of giving back, gratitude, giving back to society. So those are, I think, important needs that we have just at our basic human level.
Our conversation with the bishop continues right after this. Again, you talk about scandals and so on, but there's an imbalance there because they pay so much more attention to things than you would think it deserves. There are things that are genuine concerns, but they seem to be outweighed, and the attacks seem to go after the traditional, like the scouting and religion and patriotism and the things that we're all brought up with. Mm-hmm. I'm not quite sure how you combat that. And as far as the church is concerned, it's leading people away from the church, and that's just one segment. But how does the church compensate for that? How do you stem the flow, if you will?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I think, we have to stop being a church of maintenance. And that we are a church that has a message of hope. I mean, our mission was given to us over 2,000 years ago by our Lord. We are, as human beings, are special in God's eyes. We're sacred. We're children of God. We're His creation. And I think part of that is a message of hope. Our God is a God who came to be one of us. The Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. He walked with us, and He experienced, He understood our human condition, and He died for us. And I think that's a message that we can't ever get away from. That's the message of hope. So it's being a voice of hope. I think in spite of all of the negative things that we have to be out there talking about what is it that we're looking for as human beings. We're looking for happiness ultimately, right? When two couples come to me and they want to get married, I say, what do you want for each other? And they say, well, we want each other to be happy. I want my future wife to be happy. I want my future husband to be happy. So, well, what is happiness? Well, I want them to be safe. I want them to be secure. I want them to have what they need in life. I said, well, that's fine, but if you're involving the Lord in your life, okay, happiness takes on an even deeper meaning. It means that I want you to go where I want to be, and that's eventually with God in eternity. So I think that message is one that needs to be shared more. And I think as we share that, though, we have to somehow bring it down also to earth and apply it to our lives to today.
Well, that's a message that the church for past 2,000 years has been giving to people. Mm-hmm. And what we've been talking about now is we're being kind of outshouted in today's society. One possible, I'm not going to say solution, but one possible way to fight back is in the education of our young people. Mm-hmm. And that's a big problem because government has kind of taken over. The secular kind of government education has led young people away from religion, and it's seemingly more and more our Catholic education system has started to shrink for various reasons. Yeah. And as bishop, this falls on your shoulders.
And to be honest, that has been one of my greatest concerns as bishop here, as it is, I think, in many of our dioceses. We're seeing in this part of the country our school system shrinking, and that's due to lack of, in many ways, financial resources, but most importantly, lack of children in the classrooms. It has to be a good that is valued by our community and our society. And to be honest, even among our priests, that it needs to be something promoted, that Catholic education is not only important in forming good citizens, which it has done, and I think that's what's recognized, and in many cases, that's why parents choose to send their children to a Catholic school. They want them to get in the best college, but that's not the purpose and the mission of our Catholic schools. Our Catholic schools are to form good people, a moral people, a people who have a sense of again, giving back to the community, a sense of God in their life. And I think Catholic schools definitely do that. How many people say, I went to Catholic school and it has helped me get to where I am today. But I think more and more we're seeing that message is not getting through. So we need to do a better job at why is it important to get a Catholic education. And again, it's about the 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic, but we have to add that other one, religion, which is probably the one that really overlaps everything. In a Catholic school, that thread of faith and the love of God and the love of neighbor, I think, goes through all the curriculum. It's not just a subject that we take. It's something that's integrated in the way that things are taught. And I guess we have to do a better job at showing people that it's worth the sacrifice and it's worth the money that, to be honest, that we pay. And it is expensive, it's expensive. But also, what are our values? What are our values when we look at what we're spending our money on?
I like Catholic Schools Week the most. Well, on different days we do different activities and they're always fun.
Catholic Schools Week because now that I'm in 8th grade, I get to help the younger kids.
It's really fun to work with the younger children.
One day it's focused around gym, so we do a bunch of physical activities, like tug of war, and a bunch of other mini games.
I like the science fair because I like to see the different experiments that everybody creates.
Every year we go and do service at St. Luke's, our Response to Love Center, and it's just nice to help other people out.
I like going to St. Luke's because I get to help out all the people there that are homeless and need food.
I like the food drive. I can give food to people who are poor and need it more than us. Because I like to give people food when they're they don't have money to buy food.
The Halloween parade.
That Santa feast. Because you get to sit on Santa's lap and you get breakfast there.
Moving Up Day, because it recognizes the kids who have been here and the more the progress they've made in going on to high school and becoming the next school leaders. That's a fun tradition.
We do have to look at better ways of, I think, coming together at how we finance these, how we bring aid to those. It can't be just an exclusive system. It has to also be there for those who normally wouldn't be able to afford a Catholic education. So these are very difficult, issues that we're grappling with as church, and hopefully we have good people who probably have better ideas than I do, and I'm looking forward to being able to move ahead with that, and with the aid of people that can help us look at solutions to strengthen our schools. Otherwise, we're going to continue with this sort of downward slide.
With all the challenges and everything that we faced and what we've talked about so far, in your experience now, knowing Buffalo, for the time that you've been here, is Buffalo typical of what other dioceses throughout the country is experiencing? Are we basically going through the same things and dealing with them in the same ways and have the same challenges?
To a large degree, yes. I think the majority of I came up from the Archdiocese of Washington, and when it came to schools, we were struggling with the same thing: declining enrollment, trying to find the resources, trying to find teachers. That's another challenge. Also, our parishes. We have many parishes, more buildings than we're able to maintain. We don't have enough priests. I think we have 161 parishes in this diocese. It's, compared to some places, I think we're the 23rd largest diocese in the country. 44% of the area, though, is Catholic. At least I think that was the statistics about 5 or 6 years ago. And given that, it's a very Catholic area still. So there's the potential to again, that's why I think in many ways a lot of the concerns and the issues, the scandals that we've dealt with hit us pretty hard, because we are such a Catholic area, and the people here love their church. They love their churches. But to be honest, we have too many churches. That's why we're in the road to renewal. I think the road to renewal is an opportunity for us to look at our resources. How do we come together as communities of faith and bring our resources together? You might have a parish that has an outstanding youth program, or another parish that's very much into social outreach to the community. Sometimes you can't do those things. One parish might be better at it than another. So how do we come together and assist one another as Catholics? Which means we're one. We do that together. So 66, I think, dioceses throughout the country are involved in some kind of restructuring. In some ways, we were behind the ball. Behind the I think the time of doing this. So this is vital for us if we're going to be able to strengthen our church and move forward. But I think all of the dioceses, particularly along the East Coast, are dealing with this. You have other certainly areas of the country where the church is booming in the South, but here where we have not enough clergy, too many churches, and in many ways not enough people.
That's all the time we have for this version of The Big Picture. But next week, we will continue with part 2 of our conversation with Bishop Michael Fisher. We appreciate you watching The Big Picture. We appreciate you watching WBBZ-TV. We'll see you next week on The Big Picture.